Welcome back to the Functional Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. I'm your host, Chris Porter, best-selling author and owner of Y.E.S Fitness. Well, let me first thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to what I have to say. Another interesting study on nutrition, one I think you'll want to hear about. But before we get started, let me thank our sponsor, Y.E.S Fitness. Most people lose the ability to enjoy life as they age. At Y.E.S Fitness, we help people 40 plus get fit so they can live longer and enjoy those extra years doing the things they love to do. So just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you want to get a timestamp or a transcript of this presentation, you can head on over to yesfitnesscd.com, click on the podcast button on the top, and you'll get access to our 266 episodes. And you can get this broadcast wherever podcasts can be found. New concern why low carbohydrate and fat intake affect longevity. So today we've got a hot topic that's been making waves in the world of nutrition. We're diving into a new Japanese study that explores how carbohydrate and fat consumption might affect longevity. And here's the kicker. It seems to be different between men and women. So grab your favorite healthy snack and get comfy, and let's dig into this intriguing research. So let me set the stage for you here. We've got a study from Nagoya University Graduate School of Medicine in Japan. Now they're telling us that extremes in carbohydrate and fat intake can potentially cut short our precious time on this planet. Now, I know what you must be thinking, but Chris, don't we always hear that low carb, low fat diets are the way to go? Well, hold your horses, because this study paints a complex picture and it's worth dissecting. It caught my eye, and I hope you'll find it interesting too. So let's break down the study. The study looked at nearly 35,000 men and over 46,000 women, all aged 35 to 69. The participants were in great shape when they signed up for the study, with healthy BMI levels. Keep in mind that this research was done in Japan, so the findings may not be one size fit all scenario for the rest of the world, especially us, the Western population. Now, here's where things get interesting. When it comes to carbs, the researchers found that men who got less than 40% of their daily calories from carbohydrates, that's less than 40%, had a significantly higher risk of all-cause mortality. But ladies, this doesn't mean you should load up on carbs either. Women who got more than 65% of their calories from carbohydrates also had a high risk of all-cause mortality. So less than 40 for men, over 65 for women seem to have an effect on their longevity. So let's hold on a second here. What about the quality of those carbohydrates? I know that's what you're thinking. Are we talking about whole grains or just empty calories? What's interesting, it turns out the study didn't find much of a difference between, or just a minimal, no difference at all between minimally processed and refined carbohydrates when it comes to their impact on longevity. So it's not just about whether it's brown rice or white rice. It's about the overall carb intake. So let's shift our focus to fats. For men, gaining more than 35% of the calories from fat, any kind of fat, increase the risk of cancer and cardiovascular mortality. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's a little nuance. When the researchers looked into the quality of fat intake, there was no clear association with saturated fats. However, consuming less unsaturated fats was likely to a higher risk of all-cause and cancer-related mortality. But hold on, ladies. This is where it turns your turn, and it's your turn to shine. For women, consuming more fats, especially saturated fats, decreased their risk of all-cause and cancer mortality. So it seems that when it comes to fats, the story may be different for men and women. All right, let's just take a moment to appreciate the complexity of the study. It's not as simple as saying cut out carbs or load up on fats. The key here is balance. We talk about balance all the time. And finding the right balance might be different for men and women. They are different, right? But hold on, before you can rush to change your diet based on this study, we've got to throw in a few caveats. I want to warn you that low carbohydrates in the diets and low fat weight loss diets for women can decrease longevity. So it's not about going to extremes. It's about finding a sweet spot in the middle. We talk about this all the time, the Goldilocks. I have another important point to caution you against drawing broad conclusions from this study, especially for us in the United States. The U.S. has its unique dietary challenges, like a high rate of obesity and an intake in ultra processed foods. So the U.S. dietary guidelines take all these factors into account. It might be more reliable source of dietary advice. So where do these fats come from, you ask? Well, saturated fats, those you might want to consume in moderation, can be found in red meat, coconut oil, butter, palm oil, and full fat dairy. On the other hand, unsaturated fats, the good ones, can be sourced in avocados, olives, pecans, pumpkin seeds, and even corn oil. But let's get back to the big question here. Why might men need more carbohydrates to avoid cutting their longevity short? Researchers speculate that it could be due to poor dietary quality, poverty-related lack of access to healthy food, smoking, and alcohol consumption. Diets low in carbohydrates often lack vital nutrients like fiber, magnesium, potassium, vitamin C, and B vitamins, all essential for our well-being. So this study suggests that a shortfall in these important nutrients might be the culprit. The authors even mention the lack of bioactivity dietary components like fiber, hemi-iron, vitamins, minerals, and branch-chain amino acids, fatty acids, and phytochemicals. All these elements are in short supply when skipping on carbs. And there's another interesting twist. If you're cutting out plant-based sources and relying heavily on animal products, this could lead to an inflammatory pathways that and more rapid biological aging and oxidative stress. So it's not just about the quality of the carbs. It's about not just about the quantity of carbs, but about the quality of carb sources as well. Researchers also note that women might naturally consume more fat because of their lower BMI. This may also tend to consume, they also may tend to consume less sugar and carbohydrates, which can lead to a higher percentage of fat in their diet. Keep in mind that women need a certain amount of fat to produce hormones like estrogen, which are cardioprotective. So it's not just about cutting out fat altogether. It's about finding the right balance. We're talking about finding the right balance. Find a nutrition pattern that works for you, one that you can maintain that is healthy. Don't go to extremes. We find that when people get a little bit older, they realize this fact. The extremes just aren't what works for them. They've tried many times in their life, especially to lose weight, and the extremes just don't stick. They can't maintain that diet. So before we wrap things up, let's remember that this study is just a piece of the puzzle. For us, people in the United States and other Western countries, it might not provide all the answers. We need more research, ideally with a population that's more representative of our local dietary and health landscapes. So don't take this, it's not etched in stone. What is etched in stone is balance. That's the important bottom line here. Extremes in carbohydrates and fat consumption might not be the way to go. It's important about finding the Goldilocks zone. Not too much, not too little. That's just right for you. So with that, we wrap up this another episode of the Functional Longevity Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into how carbohydrates and fat consumption can affect longevity, especially it's different for men and women. Remember, it's not about extremes, it's about balance. And there's no one size fits all nutrition when it comes to nutrition. There's no one size fit all solution, I should say, when it comes to nutrition. So I hope you found this interesting. You can look for more information from me next Tuesday at this time, where I'll give you an insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and